Your mind is not your friend until you train it. Most people live as slaves to their own thoughts, reacting, doubting, overthinking. But the disciplined few? They've built an inner system, a mind that obeys them. You don't rise when life gets easier. You rise when your thoughts stop controlling you. This is not motivation. This is mental engineering. Welcome to How to Control Your Thoughts. Chapter 1. Stop letting thoughts think you. Most people don't think. They get thought. That's the truth no one wants to hear. You believe you're in control, but you're not. Your thoughts run you. They tell you what to fear, what to doubt, what to chase, and what to avoid. They whisper in the background like a constant storm, and you mistake the noise for who you are. But here's the reality: you are not your thoughts. You are the one who observes them. That's the beginning of mental control, observation. The moment you start watching your thoughts instead of becoming them, you begin to separate the noise from the truth. You start to see how much of your inner world isn't even yours. It's conditioning. It's repetition. It's programming. Your mind has been trained by repetition since childhood. You've absorbed the fears of your parents, the opinions of your teachers, the expectations of your peers. And now, every time you hesitate before taking a step forward, it's not logic holding you back. It's that conditioning. You think you're being cautious. You're not. You're being controlled. You think you're analyzing. You're not. You're rationalizing your fear. You think you're thinking, but you're just reliving a script that was written long before you had a choice. And that's the key word: choice. Every single day you have a choice, to let your mind run you or to run your mind. Most people don't make that choice consciously. They wake up, scroll, react, compare, doubt, regret, repeat. The same cycle. The same loop. That's not awareness. That's automation. So let's break it. Start here. Observe. That's your first training ground. When a negative thought appears, don't fight it. Don't judge it. Just watch it. See it for what it is, an old echo trying to repeat itself. You can say out loud, "That's just a thought." Simple. Direct. It breaks the spell. When you say it, you create space. And that space is power. Between the thought and the reaction lies the gap where transformation happens. That's where you decide whether the thought deserves your energy or not. Most people never reach that space. They feel anxious and they react. They feel doubt and they freeze. They feel fear and they surrender. You can't stop thoughts from appearing, but you can stop obeying them. That's control. Think of your mind like a loud room. Every voice in that room wants your attention. Fear shouts. Doubt whispers. Anger interrupts. But if you stand still long enough, you'll notice something. You're the one listening to them. You are not the room. You are the observer in the room. That awareness changes everything. Because once you know you're the observer, you stop reacting to every emotional wave. You start to respond with clarity. You begin to direct your thoughts instead of drowning in them. That's what separates the disciplined from the distracted. The disciplined see a thought like a notification. They choose whether to open it or not. The distracted? They click everything. Every emotion. Every impulse. Every doubt. And they wonder why they're exhausted. Mental fatigue doesn't come from doing too much. It comes from thinking about too much, reacting to every useless signal your brain throws at you. So here's your training. Stop clicking on every thought. Every time your mind says, "What if I fail?" you say, "That's just a thought." Every time your mind says, "I'm not ready," you say, "That's just a thought." Every time your mind says, "I can't do this," you say, "That's just a thought." And eventually, your mind learns something powerful. It learns that you're the one in charge. That's mental dominance. That's control. But let's go deeper. Why do thoughts feel so real? Because your brain links them to emotion. Emotion makes thoughts sticky. That's why overthinking before an opportunity feels paralyzing. It's not logic. It's fear disguised as reasoning. Before a big move, a presentation, a decision, a risk, your mind floods you with images of failure. That's not prediction. That's protection. The brain doesn't want growth. It wants safety. But safety kills potential. Comfort kills purpose. So you must train your mind to separate emotion from decision. To say, "I feel fear, but that doesn't mean I stop." That's what control looks like. Not silence, direction. You don't erase thoughts. You redirect them. You don't suppress emotion. You outdiscipline it. Remember this: control is not calmness. Control is clarity. You can be afraid and still act. You can be uncertain and still move. You can be uncomfortable and still disciplined. That's the practice. That's how mental warriors are built. Here's what you do daily. Notice your loops. What thoughts keep repeating? Name them. Call them out. Awareness kills autopilot. Detach from the emotion. When it rises, don't sink into it. Observe it like weather passing by. Replace, don't resist. A thought cannot be deleted, it must be overwritten. Replace "I'm not good enough" with "I'm getting stronger." Replace "I can't handle this" with "I've handled worse." Over time, these repetitions become your new default. That's not fake affirmation, that's mental conditioning. The same way you trained fear through repetition, you now train power the same way. It's not about never thinking negatively. It's about never letting negative thoughts think you. Remember, you are the commander, not the servant. You are the voice, not the echo. You are the thinker, not the thought. Every moment you choose awareness, you reclaim territory inside your mind. And make no mistake, this is a war. Not against others, but against your own mental laziness. The enemy isn't failure. It's unconsciousness. The habit of living without noticing what your mind is doing. Once you wake up to that, you can't go back. You start seeing the patterns in everything, your hesitation, your excuses, your distractions. They all start from a single seed, a thought you believed without questioning. But now you know better. You don't have to believe everything you think. You can choose what enters your mind, what stays, and what gets deleted. That's control. That's freedom. So when the next wave of doubt appears, don't run. Don't fight. Just stand still and say, "That's just a thought." And in that moment, you win. Because victory doesn't come when the noise disappears. It comes when the noise no longer moves you. That's the first step in mastering your mind. That's where true power begins. You've learned how to step outside your thoughts and see them for what they are, background noise. Now you're ready to take control of how you respond to them. Because observation means nothing without discipline. You mastered awareness. Now let's talk about the next step, the one that separates reaction from control. Chapter 2. Observe before you react. You will never control your life until you learn to control your reactions. That's where mastery begins, in the space between stimulus and response. Something happens. Someone says something. A situation hits your nerves. And instantly your mind wants to react. It wants to defend, to justify, to lash out, to retreat. That's the primitive brain, built for survival, not for success. But here's the truth: success doesn't live in reaction. It lives in response. Reaction is emotional. Response is intentional. Reaction is instinct. Response is discipline. Reaction is weakness disguised as urgency. Response is control disguised as calm. You have to train that pause, that single silent second where you breathe, assess, and choose your next move. Pause, breathe, then act. That's not just a slogan. That's the foundation of mental power. Every high performer knows this rule. Athletes train it. Soldiers depend on it. They practice that microsecond pause between chaos and control. In combat, the soldier who reacts emotionally dies first. In competition, the athlete who lets emotion drive the moment breaks focus and loses form. That pause, that instant of stillness, is where clarity lives. But in everyday life, people abandon that skill completely. Someone criticizes them, they react. A plan changes, they panic. A delay happens, they complain. Every time you react, you surrender control. Every time you pause, you reclaim it. That's the key. Let's break it down. When something happens, good or bad, your body reacts before your mind catches up. Your heart races. Your breath shortens. Adrenaline fires. Your system prepares for fight or flight. That's natural. It's biology. But biology isn't destiny. You can interrupt it. When you feel that surge, stop. Breathe deeply once. Then again. Tell yourself, pause. Breathe. Then act. That single breath creates separation. And in that separation, your power returns. Because when you're calm, you can see clearly. And when you see clearly, you can choose wisely. The weak react because they believe their emotions are instructions. The strong respond because they know emotions are only information. Emotions are data, not direction. You can feel anger and still stay calm. You can feel fear and still move forward. You can feel pressure and still perform. That's what discipline looks like, not emotionlessness but emotional control. Think of a trained sniper. Heart steady, breath measured, and still. The world can be chaos, noise, danger, adrenaline, but the trained mind filters it all out. Only precision remains. That's what your pause does. It filters. It separates signal from noise. You don't need to react to everything that triggers you. You don't need to speak every thought that comes to mind. You don't need to act on every emotion that rises. You have a choice. Always. Every reaction you don't give, that's self-mastery. Every emotion you observe instead of obey, that's strength. And that strength compounds. Let's make this practical. When you're about to respond to an angry text, pause. Don't send. Breathe. Wait 10 minutes. Watch how emotion loses power with time. When someone criticizes you, don't defend immediately. Observe what's happening inside you. Is your reaction truth or ego? When a problem appears, don't panic. Ask, what can I control right now? That question breaks the loop of helplessness. Because control isn't about controlling everything. It's about controlling yourself no matter what happens. That's how disciplined people move through chaos. Steady, grounded, unshaken. They understand that silence is not weakness. It's calculation. They understand that stillness is not inaction. It's direction. They understand that composure is not lack of passion. It's control of energy. Pause. Breathe. Then act. Let me tell you something powerful. You are never judged by what happens to you. You are judged by what you do next. People remember your reaction, not your excuses. So train that reaction. Build that pause into your reflex. Every time you respond with patience instead of impulse, you're rewiring your brain. Every time you stay calm when others lose control, you're training authority over your mind. That's mental fitness. That's how emotional warriors are built. You can't always stop the first thought, but you can control the second one. You can't always stop the first feeling, but you can direct the next action. That's what separates amateurs from professionals, followers from leaders, and reactors from masters. Here's how to train this skill daily. Micro-pauses. Throughout the day, practice short pauses before responding, before replying to messages, before making a choice, before reacting emotionally. Breath reset. When tension rises, take 3 slow breaths through your nose. Inhale calm. Exhale noise. Reframe quickly. Ask yourself, is this a fact or a feeling? That one question shifts you from reaction to reflection. The more you practice, the faster your nervous system adapts. Soon, pausing won't feel forced, it'll feel natural. And here's the secret. Once you master this, people will start noticing. They'll wonder why you don't flinch, why you don't explode, why you seem unbothered while others crumble. That's because you've learned to command the gap, that invisible space where emotional chaos turns into mental control. You can't lead others if you can't lead your reactions. You can't master outcomes if you can't master your pause. You can't claim to be in control if every emotion moves you. Control begins with a breath. Power begins with silence. Pause. Breathe. Then act. Say it again. Pause. Breathe. Then act. That's your mantra for the next week. Every situation, every challenge, every trigger, repeat it. Because the one who controls the pause controls the moment. And the one who controls the moment controls the direction of life. So remember, you don't have to be faster. You have to be calmer. You don't have to react stronger. You have to respond smarter. You don't have to silence emotion. You have to govern it. That's the path of self-mastery, calm under chaos, discipline under emotion. You've learned how to observe before reacting. You've learned that stillness is strength. Now it's time to go deeper, to take that pause and turn it into a system that protects your mind every day. You've built awareness. You've built control. Next, we build identity. Chapter 3. Reprogram your inner voice. There is a voice inside your head that narrates your life. You hear it every day. You believe it every day. But here's the truth. That voice isn't always yours. It's a collection of echoes. Parents, teachers, friends, failures, fears. Over time, it became the language of your mind, and that language shapes your limits. Your self-talk is not background noise. It's the code that programs your behavior. If you talk to yourself like a victim, you'll act like one. If you talk to yourself like a warrior, you'll think like one. If you talk to yourself like someone who can't, you'll stop trying before you start. You are not what you think, you are what you say to yourself about what you think. That's why the disciplined few treat self-talk as training. They understand that every word you repeat in your mind either builds your strength or breaks it down. So here's the rule. Talk to yourself like someone you're training, not someone you're tolerating. Let's be clear. Most people bully themselves mentally. They wake up and say, I'm tired, I'm behind, I'm not enough. And then they wonder why their motivation feels dead. You can't insult yourself into improvement. You can't shame yourself into strength. You can only train yourself through direction and clarity. That starts with language. Your inner voice is not just commentary, it's command. Every word is an instruction to your subconscious. When you repeat, I can't handle this, your brain doesn't argue. It obeys. It shuts down your energy, your focus, your possibilities. But when you say, I've handled worse, your brain activates evidence. It remembers resilience. It unlocks strength. That's how you reprogram identity, not with grand affirmations but with disciplined language. Let's take an example. You wake up late. The old voice says, you messed up the day. The new voice says, you're back on track now. You face a challenge. The old voice says, I can't do this. The new voice says, I'll find a way. You feel fear. The old voice says, what if I fail? The new voice says, what if I grow? One shift. One sentence. That's all it takes. The difference between average and extraordinary often begins with a single phrase repeated daily. You become what you rehearse. Every thought is a rep. Every word is a weight. The more you repeat weakness, the stronger weakness becomes. The more you repeat strength, the more natural strength feels. It's the same as physical training. What you repeat becomes automatic. So ask yourself, what are you practicing mentally? Are you training doubt or discipline? Are you training fear or focus? Are you training excuses or execution? You have a choice. That's the key. You always have a choice. Most people think confidence is something you find after success. It's not. Confidence is the byproduct of consistent, positive self-talk long before the results appear. Think about athletes, performers, soldiers. They speak to themselves like commanders. They don't say, I hope this works. They say, I've trained for this. I'm ready. That's not arrogance. That's alignment. Because your body will not follow a leader who doesn't sound certain. If your inner voice doesn't trust you, your actions won't either. Start paying attention to how you speak to yourself when no one's listening. Listen to the tone, the words, the patterns. Would you speak that way to someone you care about? Would you speak that way to someone you're coaching to win? If not, change it. Talk to yourself like someone you're training, not someone you're tolerating. You don't train a soldier by saying, you're weak. You train them by saying, you're capable. Get up. Try again. You don't train an athlete by saying, you're slow. You train them by saying, you're improving. Push one more rep. You don't train a mind by saying, you can't. You train it by saying, you will. That's not delusion. That's direction. Here's how to start reprogramming your inner voice. Catch the critic. Awareness comes first. Every time your self-talk turns negative, write down the phrase. See the pattern. Flip the frame. Replace the limiting line with a powerful one. I'm not ready becomes, I'm getting ready. This is too hard becomes, this is how I get stronger. Repeat intentionally. The brain learns through repetition. Speak the new language out loud. Whisper it if you must, but say it with conviction. You don't need to believe it right away. Repetition builds belief. The same way you train self-doubt through years of repetition, you can retrain confidence the same way. This is mental conditioning. This is how identity is built. Here's the truth. Your inner voice sets your ceiling. If your self-talk is chaotic, your focus will be chaotic. If your self-talk is calm, your life will follow. The language of your mind is the blueprint of your reality. You will never outperform your self-concept. You will never outwork your inner voice. That's why mastery begins in silence. Not because silence is peace, but because silence lets you hear the voice that runs your life. When you hear it clearly, you can train it deliberately. When you train it deliberately, you can direct it consciously. And when you direct it consciously, you build unshakable control. So from now on, you don't just think, you train your thoughts. You don't just listen, you lead your mind. Every morning, command your inner voice. Don't let it wander. Don't let it repeat the old script. Tell it exactly what to say. You're focused. You're capable. You're in control. Repeat that enough and your mind will follow. Because the subconscious doesn't need proof. It needs consistency. Keep the language of discipline on repeat until it becomes your instinct. You don't need to feel confident to speak confidently. You need to speak confidently until confidence becomes natural. That's how you rewire identity. Your inner voice is either your greatest coach or your silent enemy. It can build your vision or bury it. It can make you unstoppable or uncertain. So train it, command it, control it. Talk to yourself like someone you're training, not someone you're tolerating. That's how you build a mind that obeys, not resists. That's how you build a voice that reinforces, not sabotages. That's how you build the foundation of mental strength. You've learned to observe your thoughts. You've learned to control your reactions. And now you've learned to reprogram the language inside your head. But control doesn't stop with words. The next step is learning how to detach emotion from execution, to stop letting your feelings decide your discipline. Because emotion is information, not instruction. You've built awareness and language. Now it's time to master direction. Chapter 4. Emotion is data, not direction. Your emotions are not enemies, but they're not leaders either. They are signals, not commands. They're data, not direction. Most people live as if emotion is the ultimate truth. They feel something and immediately obey it. They're tired, so they stop. They're scared, so they retreat. They're angry, so they speak. That's why they stay stuck, because they confuse how they feel with what they must do. But discipline doesn't care about feelings. Discipline follows orders, not moods. You can feel tired and still show up. You can feel afraid and still take the shot. You can feel uncertain and still move forward. That's control. That's maturity. That's mastery. You can't erase emotion, but you can separate it from execution. That's the difference between chaos and clarity, between reacting and leading. Feel it, note it, move anyway. Emotion has one purpose, to give you feedback, not to dictate your future. Fear says, pay attention. Anger says, something matters. Sadness says, you've lost something valuable. Excitement says, there's opportunity here. Every emotion is a signal, but signals don't drive the car. You do. The moment you let emotion take the wheel, you lose control of direction. And when you lose direction, you waste energy. The strongest people in the world still feel emotion. They've just trained themselves to respond with discipline, not impulse. Think about elite soldiers. They experience fear, adrenaline, exhaustion, but they've trained to execute anyway. Because when the mission starts, feelings are irrelevant. The only thing that matters is the process. Emotion doesn't lead, discipline does. That's the standard of mental toughness. The problem is, most people think suppressing emotion equals control. It doesn't. Suppression is weakness disguised as strength. It's avoidance, not mastery. Real control is awareness without obedience. You acknowledge the emotion. You feel it fully. You note the message, then you move according to logic, purpose, and principle. That's what it means to feel it, note it, move anyway. You don't push the emotion away, you just don't let it sit in the driver's seat. Let's make this practical. You're about to work out, but you feel lazy. Note it. I feel lazy. That's data. Your body's low on motivation, not capability. Now move anyway. You're about to confront someone, but you feel anxious. Note it. I feel fear. That's data. This conversation matters. Now move anyway. You're about to start a big project, but you feel doubt. Note it. I feel unsure. That's data. You're outside your comfort zone. Now move anyway. That's emotional discipline. That's how winners operate. Your emotions are real, but they're not reliable. One day they say you're unstoppable. The next day they say you're worthless. You can't build consistency on something that fluctuates hourly. If you only move when you feel right, you'll never move enough to change your life. That's why emotion can inform your choices but never define them. You feel first, but you decide second. That's the space where your strength lives. The world will tell you to follow your heart, but your heart changes its mind every 5 minutes. Emotion is a compass, not a GPS. It can show direction, but it doesn't know the terrain. You need your mind, your trained, disciplined, structured mind, to interpret the data and make the decision. That's what separates professionals from amateurs, masters from reactors. When pressure hits, amateurs feel emotion and crumble. Professionals feel emotion and channel it. They turn fear into focus. They turn anger into action. They turn doubt into drive. Because emotion is just energy, and energy can be redirected. Here's the truth: you will never eliminate emotion. You don't need to. You just need to stop being led by it. When your feelings say, "I can't," your system says, "I must." When your feelings say, "Not today," your discipline says, "Today matters most." When your feelings say, "I don't feel like it," your purpose says, "Do it anyway." That's how the military trains. That's how elite performers live. They don't wait for calm to act. They act until calm appears. They don't wait for motivation to move. They move until motivation follows. Emotion doesn't lead, discipline does. Here's how to practice emotional control daily. Name it. Label your emotion in real time. I'm angry. I'm nervous. I'm excited. Naming emotion disarms it. It moves you from reaction to observation. Locate it. Where do you feel it? Chest, gut, shoulders? Bring awareness to it. This physical observation grounds you in the present moment. Move with purpose. Choose your next action consciously, not emotionally. Breathe. Then take the smallest disciplined step forward. You don't need to kill emotion. You need to train your relationship with it. That's the art of balance. Feel deeply, act deliberately. Understand this. Emotion is temporary, but your choices create permanence. If you make emotional decisions, you'll build a temporary life. Up and down, chaotic, inconsistent. If you make disciplined decisions, you'll build a stable life. Grounded, resilient, unstoppable. It's not about ignoring how you feel. It's about refusing to let how you feel decide who you become. Feel it, note it, move anyway. That's the code of emotional mastery. You can't control the waves of feeling, but you can become the surfer who rides them. You can't control the storm, but you can command the ship. That's leadership of self. That's what control looks like in motion. You're not supposed to be emotionless. You're supposed to be emotionally intelligent. You use the data. You learn from it. But you don't surrender to it. Every time you act against an unhelpful emotion, you build muscle. Every time you move anyway, you reinforce dominance. You stop asking, "How do I feel?" and you start asking, "What needs to be done?" That's the pivot from emotional slavery to mental sovereignty. So when emotion rises, remember this. You are the observer, not the emotion. You are the operator, not the machine. You are the leader, not the follower. Feel it. Note it. Move anyway. That's your mantra. That's your discipline. That's your edge. Because emotion is not the problem. Attachment is. The moment you stop following every emotional impulse, you step into command of your mind. You've learned to reprogram your inner voice. You've learned to detach emotion from execution. Now it's time to take that clarity and build something powerful. A system that keeps you consistent when emotion tries to interfere. Because systems protect what motivation forgets. Chapter 5. Build a mental system, not a mood. Motivation is a spark. Systems are fire. Motivation fades. Systems sustain. The difference between people who rise once and people who rise always is simple. The second group doesn't wait to feel right. They build systems that make it right. You can't trust moods. You can't rely on emotion. You can only rely on what you've built. That's why the disciplined always win. They don't wake up wondering if today will be productive. They've already decided it will be, because their system leaves no other option. Systems stabilize what emotions sabotage. Here's the hard truth. If your results depend on how you feel, you'll never be consistent. Because feelings are weather, they change every hour. But systems are climate, they stay stable through every storm. You don't need to feel motivated to execute. You need a structure that removes choice. When something is systemized, it becomes identity. You don't debate it. You don't delay it. You do it. You brush your teeth not because you're inspired, but because it's part of who you are. That's what your goals deserve, that level of automatic discipline. Let's talk about what a mental system really is. A mental system is a repeatable structure that makes success the default. It's a checklist, a rule, a ritual, a reset. It's the mental operating system that runs even when you're tired, uninspired, or distracted. That's the secret of winners. They design environments and habits that carry them through emotional chaos. Their system is stronger than their state. Systems stabilize what emotions sabotage. A system can be as simple as a 3-step rule. When you wake up, no phone, no scroll, no noise. Just breathe, plan, and move. That's a system. Before you speak, pause, breathe, choose clarity over impulse. That's a system. After every setback, reflect, reset, restart. That's a system. Simple, repeatable, unbreakable. Every habit you automate frees energy from decision fatigue. Every rule you enforce strengthens your identity. The fewer decisions you make emotionally, the more control you have mentally. That's how systems make you unstoppable. The undisciplined rely on moods. I'll go when I feel like it. The disciplined rely on systems. I go because it's time. Moods say maybe. Systems say now. That's why professionals don't wait for motivation. They create momentum. You can't predict your emotions, but you can predict your process. And predictability creates power. Think of pilots, surgeons, soldiers. They don't rely on inspiration. They rely on procedure. Because when pressure hits, systems save lives. In your world, systems save time, energy, and focus. Here's how to build your own. Define the non-negotiables. What do you must do daily to move forward, even when you don't feel like it? That's your foundation. Simplify the rules. The simpler the system, the harder it is to break. Complexity kills consistency. Track without emotion. Metrics over moods. Did you do it or not? That's the only scoreboard that matters. That's how champions think. They don't chase motivation, they measure discipline. Systems stabilize what emotions sabotage. Here's the truth: your brain loves patterns. It's wired for repetition. When you create structure, you create calm. When you create rules, you create freedom. The world glorifies spontaneity. But spontaneity without discipline is chaos. You want peace? Build structure. You want freedom? Build systems. Because systems don't limit you, they liberate you from inconsistency. The gym at 6 a.m. The journal before sleep. The focus block every morning. These are not chores. They're anchors. They hold you steady when motivation disappears. Every master has a system. Writers have writing hours. Athletes have training regimens. Monks have rituals. Executives have morning routines. They've removed choice from the equation. Choice drains energy. Systems conserve it. When you know exactly what to do, when to do it, and why, hesitation dies. That's where freedom begins. That's where results compound. The system becomes your silent engine, always running, always moving you forward. Let's be clear. Emotions aren't bad. They're just unreliable. You can't stop them, but you can outsystem them. That's what discipline really is. Not cold emotionlessness, but well-built order. Systems don't care if you're scared. They don't care if you're tired. They only care that you show up. That's why systems outlast willpower. Motivation whispers, do it when you feel ready. Systems command, do it because it's time. That's mastery. That's control. Systems stabilize what emotions sabotage. The undisciplined wake up and react to life. The disciplined wake up and execute their plan. One lives by emotion. The other lives by system. And over time, systems beat feelings, every single day. You want to be mentally strong? Stop chasing moods. Start designing mechanisms. Don't depend on how you feel. Depend on what you've built. Because structure doesn't care if you're inspired, it just gets the job done. That's how real progress happens. Quietly, consistently, systematically. No one sees the systems you build, but everyone sees the results they create. That's why silent progress is the loudest proof. So stop waiting for motivation. Stop asking to feel ready. Decide. Design. Do. That's your framework. That's your focus. Because systems stabilize what emotions sabotage. Always have, always will. And when your system becomes stronger than your mood, your life becomes stronger than your excuses. That's self-mastery. That's control. That's freedom. You are not here to control the world. You are here to control your mind. Because the one who controls thought controls behavior. The one who controls behavior controls outcomes. And the one who controls outcomes controls destiny. Every thought you let pass unchecked becomes a seed, one of doubt or one of power. You must choose every day which one you'll water. When your mind says, I can't, respond with, watch me. When your mind says, not now, respond with, now is all I have. This is not about perfection, it's about awareness. Because awareness is control. Control is power. And power is freedom. So from this moment forward, stop reacting. Start directing. Your mind works for you. Train it or be trained by it.